Ever notice how people stick to their opinions, even when the facts say otherwise? It's like an invisible wall goes up, and no amount of evidence seems to penetrate it. This invisible force is called confirmation bias, and it might be controlling your beliefs more than you realize. It's a subtle puppet master, pulling the strings of your perception, influencing what you see, what you remember, and ultimately, what you believe to be true. Today we're going to shine a light on this powerful cognitive bias and explore how we can start to break free from its grip.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bosin, and welcome to PerceptionPoint. In today's episode, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful and pervasive cognitive traps in psychology: confirmation bias. At its core, confirmation bias is our brain's natural tendency to cherry-pick information. It's an unconscious process where we actively seek out evidence that aligns with what we already think, and we tend to downplay, ignore, or even aggressively discredit evidence that contradicts our views. This feeling of being right, of having our beliefs validated, is incredibly satisfying. It provides a sense of coherence and understanding in a chaotic world. But this comfort can come at a cost, as it can prevent us from seeing the bigger picture or acknowledging uncomfortable truths. You likely noticed all the little things that confirmed that feeling, while perhaps brushing aside instances that didn't quite fit. This cognitive shortcut can be incredibly subtle. Sometimes, it's about the questions we ask, the sources we trust, or the way we interpret ambiguous information. Understanding confirmation bias is the first crucial step towards mitigating its effects. This bias isn't a sign of low intelligence or a character flaw. It's a universal human trait. The most brilliant minds can fall prey to it if they're not vigilant. The key is that it operates beneath the surface of our conscious awareness, making it feel like we are being perfectly rational and objective, even when we are selectively processing information. This is why it's often easier to spot confirmation bias in others than in ourselves. So, as we journey through this topic, I encourage you to reflect on your own thinking patterns. Where might confirmation bias be subtly shaping your perceptions, your decisions, and your interactions? By bringing this unconscious process into the light, we can begin to reclaim a degree of control over our own minds and foster a more nuanced and accurate understanding of the world and the people in it. It's about moving from a state of unconscious certainty to conscious questioning. So, how exactly does confirmation bias play out in our everyday lives? It's often most apparent in the way we seek out and consume information. Imagine you've recently become convinced that a particular diet, let's say the keto diet, is the absolute healthiest way to eat. Now, you decide to do some more research online. What do you instinctively type into that search bar? Chances are you're more likely to type something like benefits of the keto diet, rather than a more neutral query like scientific evidence for and against keto diet. This seemingly small choice in wording is confirmation bias in action. You'll then be presented with a list of search results. Which links are you most likely to click on? The ones with titles like, Top 10 Reasons Keto Will Change Your Life. You'll eagerly click these, read them, and feel a sense of validation. Meanwhile, articles with titles like, Potential Dangers of Long-Term Keto might be scrolled past, perhaps with a fleeting thought of, oh, that's probably just fear-mongering. And so you walk away from your research session feeling even more confident and entrenched in your belief that the keto diet is the ultimate path to health. This is the insidious nature of confirmation bias. It creates an illusion of objective research while guiding you towards a predetermined outcome. Confirmation bias isn't confined to our online searches or media consumption. Its invisible hand subtly guides our judgments and interactions in virtually every aspect of our lives. First, let's talk about politics. This is perhaps one of the most glaring arenas for confirmation bias. We tend to align ourselves with a particular political party or ideology, and once that alignment is established, we often consume media, follow social media accounts, and engage in conversations that reinforce our existing political beliefs. Information that supports our party's platform is readily accepted as truth, while information critical of it or supportive of an opposing party is often met with skepticism, dismissal, or even hostility. This selective attention means that supporters of different political factions can witness the exact same event and come away with entirely different interpretations, each convinced that their understanding is the objective truth. Then there are our personal relationships. When we are emotionally invested in someone, confirmation bias can lead us to overlook or downplay red flags. If we believe someone is fundamentally good, kind, or trustworthy, we will tend to focus on their positive actions and find excuses for their negative ones. This can, unfortunately, lead us to stay in unhealthy or unfulfilling relationships longer than we should. Confirmation bias also significantly impacts our careers and professional development. Imagine you see yourself as a highly competent and innovative employee. When your boss gives you a performance review, you might eagerly absorb all the positive feedback, feeling validated and recognized. However, if there's constructive criticism or suggestions for improvement, you might become defensive, question your boss's judgment, or rationalize why that feedback isn't truly applicable to you. This reluctance to accept challenging feedback can hinder growth. So why is confirmation bias so deeply ingrained in us? Why do we cling so tightly to our existing beliefs, even when faced with contradictory evidence? Well, a significant part of the answer lies in the fascinating neuroscience of our brains, specifically within its reward system. When we encounter information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs, our brain rewards us with a little hit of dopamine. This dopamine rush feels good, creating a positive feedback loop that encourages us to seek out more of that confirming information. This neurological reward makes perfect sense from an evolutionary perspective. Our ancestors needed to make quick decisions to survive. Sticking to what seemed to work, what felt familiar and predictable, offered a survival advantage. So, when we find evidence that supports what we already think, it's not just a logical affirmation. It's an emotional and physiological one too. It feels good to be right, or at least to maintain the illusion of being right. So we unconsciously, and sometimes consciously, chase that feeling. Now, this isn't to say we're all just dopamine addicts, blindly seeking validation. But it does help explain why changing someone's mind, or even our own, is so difficult, even with compelling facts. Understanding this neurological basis is crucial. It helps us to be more compassionate with ourselves and others when we observe confirmation bias in action. However, this wiring isn't destiny. By becoming aware of these underlying mechanisms, we can start to develop strategies to consciously override these automatic tendencies. The challenge, then, is to learn to find a different kind of satisfaction. The satisfaction of learning, of growing, of getting closer to the truth. It's about training our brains to value intellectual honesty and curiosity, as much as, or even more than, the fleeting pleasure of simple validation. This is where the real work of critical thinking begins. While confirmation bias is a natural human tendency, its consequences, when left unchecked, can be far-reaching and genuinely dangerous, impacting not only our personal lives, but also society as a whole. One of the most immediate dangers is that confirmation bias acts as a major roadblock to learning and personal growth. If we only seek out information that confirms what we already know or believe, we effectively close ourselves off to new perspectives, new knowledge, and new skills. In our relationships, confirmation bias can fuel misunderstanding, conflict, and eventual breakdown. The spread of misinformation and fake news is heavily amplified by confirmation bias. When we encounter a headline or a story that aligns with our pre-existing beliefs or prejudices, we are far more likely to accept it as true without critical scrutiny and share it with others. Furthermore, confirmation bias is a cornerstone of prejudice and closed-mindedness. When we hold stereotypes about certain groups of people, we tend to notice and remember instances that confirm those stereotypes, while ignoring or explaining away evidence that contradicts them. Beyond these societal and interpersonal impacts, confirmation bias can have a profound effect on our mental health. If you struggle with negative self-beliefs, confirmation bias will lead you to selectively focus on experiences that seem to validate these thoughts. At a broader societal level, confirmation bias can hinder progress on critical issues. Recognizing and actively working against confirmation bias isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a crucial skill for navigating an increasingly complex world. Recognizing confirmation bias is the first step. But how do we actively work to break free from its grip? Let's explore some practical techniques you can start using today. First, learn to ask better questions. Instead of instinctively asking questions designed to confirm your existing viewpoint, try flipping the script. Ask yourself, what might I be missing here? Or, what's the strongest argument against my position? Or, if I were wrong about this, how would I know? The second strategy is to actively seek disconfirming evidence. Make a conscious effort to read articles, listen to podcasts, or engage with viewpoints that oppose your own. Try to steel-man their argument. That is, articulate their position in its strongest possible form. It's important to acknowledge that seeking disconfirming evidence can feel uncomfortable, but lean into that discomfort. Third, practice the art of the pause before reacting. When you encounter new information, especially if it's emotionally charged or directly challenges a core belief, resist the urge to immediately accept or reject it. Take a moment. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this information a verifiable fact? Or is it an opinion, an interpretation, or something that just feels familiar and therefore comfortable? This pause can also be incredibly useful in discussions or arguments. Before you formulate your rebuttal, truly listen to what the other person is saying. Are you reacting to their actual words, or to what you assume they mean based on your pre-existing biases? Fourth, and perhaps most fundamentally, strive to embrace intellectual humility. This means recognizing that you don't have all the answers, that your knowledge is incomplete, and that it's okay to be wrong. Being wrong isn't a sign of weakness or a lack of intelligence. It's an inevitable part of the human experience and a crucial opportunity for learning and growth. Intellectual humility allows you to be more open to new ideas, more receptive to feedback, and more willing to change your mind when presented with compelling evidence. It fosters a mindset of continuous learning. As the saying goes, growth starts where certainty ends. These strategies aren't quick fixes. They require consistent effort and self-awareness. Think of them as mental exercises. The more you practice them, the stronger your critical thinking muscles will become, and the less susceptible you'll be to the subtle deceptions of confirmation bias. It's about cultivating a habit of mind that values truth over comfort and learning over validation. Start today. Your mind is a powerful instrument. Don't let it be constrained by the invisible walls of confirmation bias. As we draw our exploration of confirmation bias to a close, I want to leave you with a final thought, a shift in perspective that can be incredibly empowering. Think about your beliefs. What are they to you? Are they rigid, unshakable fortresses that you must defend at all costs? Or are they something more dynamic, more adaptable? Your beliefs shouldn't be cages that limit your perception and growth. Instead, they should be tools that you use to navigate the world. And like any good tool, they should be regularly inspected, sharpened, and sometimes even replaced when a better one comes along. Imagine your belief system not as a fixed monument, but as a living sculpture, one that you are constantly refining and reshaping throughout your life. This process of rethinking and refining our beliefs is not a sign of indecisiveness or weakness. It's a hallmark of intellectual vitality and a commitment to lifelong learning. Let go of the intense pressure and the ego-driven need to always be right. This need is often what fuels confirmation bias. Instead, shift your focus towards the process of getting closer to the truth. This is a more humble, more curious, and ultimately more rewarding pursuit. When you adopt this mindset, being confronted with evidence that challenges your beliefs is no longer a threat, it's a gift. It's an invitation to learn something new, to refine your understanding, to see the world with greater clarity. Think of the most insightful and wise people you know. Chances are, they are not the ones who are most dogmatic or unyielding in their opinions. They are often the ones who are most open to new ideas, most willing to consider different perspectives, and most comfortable with uncertainty. So I encourage you to view your beliefs as dynamic and evolving. Embrace the discomfort that can come with questioning your assumptions. Cultivate a spirit of curiosity and intellectual humility. By doing so, you'll not only break free from the more restrictive aspects of confirmation bias, but you'll also embark on a more enriching and insightful journey through life. The art of rethinking is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with practice. Start today.